awesome. And you mentioned that 2007 is when you ended up getting licensed. What made you think of real estate as that next career? Why did you pick real estate?
But I mean, I guess, it sounds so stereotypical of people who end up in real estate, but there was always this in me. It's like I remember as a kid, there was a show. If you grew up in Columbus and you've been around long enough, there was a show on Sunday mornings called the Sunday Morning Home Show. And it was Caldwell Banker. Actually, it was King Thompson. It wasn't even Caldwell Banker back then. And so they had like a spot for 30 minutes every Sunday morning, and they did kind of the circle pics thing, where the pictures kind of faded in and out. And I remember getting up as a kid and watching that show. So it's like, even as a young guy, like I always felt it like as a part of me. And my mom and I we would always go to the parade of homes, and we drive around and look at fancy houses that we could never afford. And so I think in the back of my mind, it was always something I wanted to do. The insecurity of the income and having worked in a W-2 job where you know what you're going to make every month was a obstacle for me. It's like the security. I'm more of a and less of a risk taker in that way.
Yeah.
And so it took me a while. And in 2007, I got my first job in the for-profit world working at a commercial real estate company.
Okay.
And so they offered to pay for me to get my license. I was working in a marketing role, so I was not actively selling or leasing, spaces. And so I jumped at the opportunity to get the license. And we couldn't do residential stuff because it was a commercial firm. So I just kind of had it parked there. I wasn't using it, but always had a desire to. Commercial just wasn't for me. It's like it's way too much about the money, and I like money as much as the next person. But I also need some kind of emotional connection, and you don't really get that so much on
Yeah.
the commercial side. So I get to see the nuts and bolts, see how it all works. And then when I left there, probably 2010, I started selling part time. And so I just took all the money I made and whatever I sold part time and put it in my, safety net. And so then that way I knew at some point I was gonna just quit and do this. And so finally, about 2012, that happened for me. So I was working, and I had a really bad day at work. My boss, sorry, I'm probably rambling too much, but my boss, we had kind of a disagreement in the meeting, and I just wasn't feeling valued, like that I was bringing something to the conversation.
Yeah.
And I went back to my desk, and I have a really good friend who was working at Chase at the time, and we had long talked about both of us were going to quit our jobs and do something different. And I called him and I said, think today's the day. And he said, funny you say that. I think it's for me too. I said, well, I'll do it if you do it. So he went into his boss and quit. I went into mine. He went back, got another master's degree, and I started selling real estate full time. So
N-
kind of a long-winded answer that took me from 2007 to 2012 ish.
No, that's awesome. Now, you were with the commercial side from 7 to 12, right?
Yeah.
Did they let you do the residential on the side,
No, I
or
couldn't do any. I
did
mean,
they
I
not?
could my own properties. I could sell like my stuff, but I couldn't represent, buyers and sellers and that kind of stuff.
So really, when you made that jump in 2012, you were jumping 2 feet in
Yeah, I mean,
to
so I was working for the Tech Columbus organization when I quit, and so I had a couple years in there that like I was doing it part time. So I had built up a little bit of experience and some money
yeah,
saved, so that for these ebbs and flows in business that naturally comes along with it,
yeah.
that I was able to do it.
Well, luckily you were able to ride through, the '07, '08, '09, right? And
It was rough.
um,
I watched the commercial agents like just drop off one at a time. It was like we went from one of the fastest growing because it was a national brand, but they were new to the Columbus market, so we built it from nothing.
sure.
And so I watched them build it up, and then I watched it kind of the dominoes start to fall as
Yeah.
Those who were around for the Great Recession, if you will, was not kind to a lot of real estate agents. So
Yeah, for
I was
sure.
fortunate to be in a salaried position for a lot of that.
Yeah. When you decided to make that jump to the full, residential side, commission based, um, doubters, supporters, who did you have in your corner?
You know, I'm an incredibly fortunate human being, and that like I've got the best friends, the best family, um, and so I didn't really have any doubters. I didn't have anybody that said this is a bad idea. Everybody in my circle is very supportive, so that helped a lot. And in those early days in real estate, as you know, that circle is what builds your business. And
Yeah.
so not only did they support me, they fed me. It's like they were passing me business, even representing them, of course. So they were the key to me making this go and to be able to still doing what I love.
Yeah, and the one thing I think you had in your corner was age, right, of your sphere and really coming out of the downside,
Yeah.
the downturn of the market.
Yep.
And obviously being local, right, growing up and you already had that sphere of influence that you could tap into right away.
100%.